What are you doing?
I would think of all people you would recognize a wall when you see one.
Well, yeah. But the wall's supposed to go around my swamp, not through it.
It is, around your half, see? That's your half and this is my half.
Oh, your half.
Yes, my half. I helped rescue the princess. I did half the work. I get half the booty. Now hand me that big old rock, the one that looks like your head.
Back off.
No, you back off.
This is my swamp.
Our swamp.
Let go, donkey.
You let go.
Stubborn jackass.
Smelly ogre.
Fine.
Hey, come back here. I'm not through with you yet.
Well, I'm through with you.
You know, with you, it's always me. Well, guess what? Now it's my turn. So you just shut up and pay attention. You are mean to me. You insult me and you don't appreciate anything that I do. You always push me around or pushing me away.
Oh, yeah? Well, if I treated you so bad, how come you came back?
Because that's what friends do. They forgive each other.
Oh, yeah. You're right, donkey. I forgive you. For stabbing me in the back!
Oh! You're so wrapped up in layers, onion boy, you're afraid of your own feelings.
Go away.
See? There you are, doing it again, just like you did to Fiona. And all she ever do was like you. Maybe even love you.
Love me? She said I was ugly. A hideous creature. I heard the two of you talking.
She wasn't talking about you. She was talking about... somebody else.
She wasn't talking about me? Well, then who was she talking about?
No way. I ain't saying anything. You don't want to listen to me, right? Right?
Donkey.
No.
Okay, look. I'm sorry, all right? I'm sorry. I guess I am just a big, stupid, ugly ogre. Can you forgive me?
Hey, that's what friends are for, right?
Right. Friends?
Friends.
Good morning. Happy Labor Day weekend. We are so excited that you are worshiping with us this morning. Thanks for putting your names in the chat room. I always love knowing who's worshiping with us. So thanks for saying hey. And we've got folks in Kentucky and Kansas. And so I love that we represent lots of different places. And if you're newer to the West community, we would love to know that. You can text the word welcome to the number that you see on your screen, 704-343-8955. 704-343-8955. Today we are going to continue in our message series, Defining Who We Are. For the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about the core values of the church, our mission statement, our core values. And today we're going to talk about one of our core values that it's about the church, but really it's more about us and how we hope to be and who we hope to be, and then how we hope to be then infiltrates the life of the community. So it's a little different today. So I'm really glad that you're here, and I look forward to sharing this message. It's going to be about change and changing our minds. So as you watch this next song from our worship team, I want you to think about for just a few minutes, how easy is it for you to change your mind about something? And not just what do you think about that? If you have a friend or a partner or a spouse or a child, what would they say about how willing you are to change your mind? Because lots of times we think one thing, and the way that we're perceived by the world and by those that we love, that's a whole different ballgame. So how willing do you think you are to change your mind? And then what would other people say about you? Ponder that as you listen to this song.
Her face is a map of the world, is a map of the world. You can see she's a beautiful girl, she's a beautiful girl. Everything around her is a silver pool of light. The people who surround her feel the benefit of it, it makes you calm. She holds you captivated in her palm. Suddenly I see can hear she's a beautiful girl, she's a beautiful girl. She fills up every corner like she's born in black and white. Makes you feel warmer when you're trying to remember what you heard. She likes to leave you hanging on a while. Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me. Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me. And she's taller than most, and she's looking at me. I can see her eyes looking from a page in a magazine. Oh, she makes me feel like I could be a tower, big strong tower, yeah. The power to be, the power to give, the power to see, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, she got the power to be, the power to give, the power to see, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, she got the power to be, the power to give, the power to see, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, she got the power to be, the power to give, the power to see, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, she got the power to be, the power to give, the power to see, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me. Suddenly I see, this is what I wanna be. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me. Oh, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me. Oh, yeah, yeah. Suddenly I see, why and how you mean so much to me.
Alrighty, this morning we are going to play Let's Make a Deal. So I want you to see, I have a gift for you, and the gift is in this West bag. So how willing would you be to take this West bag or receive a gift that, let's say, I'd send you in the mail, something that you can't see, you have no idea what it is. So which would you rather have? Would you rather have a gift that you could see, or just something not knowing what you're going to get, like anticipating that you're going to receive it, but not being able to choose? On the show, Let's Make a Deal, people dress up in crazy costumes and then they get chosen and they come up there and they show them one gift. And I wanted to play that with you this morning, but that's one of the barriers of online worship. Like we just couldn't figure out how to do that. There is a slight lag, like I'm saying things and you're going to hear them. I think it's like 45 seconds later. And so it'd just be really weird to have you text in because the texts are going to come in 2 minutes and I'm already going to be talking about something else. But I want you to think about that. Like, would you want the gift that you can see? Like, so we've got this cute little West bag. It's totally irrelevant now because it's no longer our logo. Would you want this gift that you can see, or would you want to receive something that you could anticipate what's coming, but not have any clue about it? On the show, like they go up there and they're presented with something, and usually the something is of some value, right? But then they're like, okay, you can make a deal. You can get what's behind door number 1 or door number 2, or you can keep what you already have. Some of the people keep what they have and then they look behind a door and they miss out on a car. Some of the people keep what they have and they open a door and there's like a pile of trash behind it. It's hard to make decisions in life, and sometimes when we make difficult decisions or just decisions anyway, whether they're hard or not, we become so fixated in our decisions that we are unwilling to change our mind. And that's what I want us to talk about today. So if you would have chosen like this bag versus what you would have gotten in the mail, what you get in the mail when we send you something as West is a $5 Clutch coffee gift card, because it's what we send our welcome folks. It's a local business that we support here in Mooresville. Or if you're one of our online worshipers from out of state and you fill out your first time guest card, we send you a Starbucks because it's a nationwide company. So we send you a coffee gift card and we send you one of these little cool West mugs that you can have. But the other thing that we've been giving away is our old propaganda and our old merchandise that has our old logo on it, because we have a new logo, we have new core values, we have a new mission statement. And so all this stuff is stuff we've been trying to get rid of. So you would have been better off not to choose the old unless you just need some work clothes. You would have been better off not to choose the bag. You would have been better off to get what you were going to get in the mail. Sight unseen. That's a little bit of a stretch for an illustration this morning, but I wanted us to start thinking about changing our minds. And when people play Let's Make a Deal, they're caught in this moment and they're there and they're facing this decision. They have something and it's probably of some worth, but then they have a chance to do something else. And that something else, it could be of more worth or it could not be. It could be a dud. Now, believe it or not, that actually is what we do in our relationships with each other. We get in relationships with one another, whether it's close family or friends or colleagues or just acquaintances, and we build relationships and we build community with one another. And guess what happens? At some point in that building of community, we have a disagreement. We have conflict with one another. And that's when those decisions that we make, they are pivotal. Because guess what? When we are in relationship with one another and we make a decision about something, about that relationship, 9 times out of 10, we become indignant. And we think we are right. And we become very unwilling to change our minds. That's why at West, one of our core values is infinitely changing. C.S. Lewis has a quote that I'd like for us to look at this morning. Every Christian, every follower of Christ, is to become a little Christ. The whole purpose of becoming a Christian is simply nothing else. It's a powerful quote. Every Christian, and if you're a part of the West community, then we say that we are followers of Christ. We're followers of the way. We are Christians. Every Christian, the whole point is to become a little Christ. There's another saying, you may be the only Jesus that someone ever sees. So we are to imitate, emulate, be like Jesus. So in all of our interactions, in all of our relationships, and in everything we do, we look like, we act like Christ. So that's why our other core values, the first one is we follow the Jesus model. The second is all means all, and we believe in loving all people, that there is no distinction. And the third is that we are always going to be relevant for today. Well, the fourth core value is that we are infinitely changing. And infinitely changing does not mean necessarily as the church, even though we hope that we always are evolving and are relevant. Today's core value is more about you and me. It's about our hearts. It's about the way that we live. We need to always be infinitely changing. Because guess what? Our perspective and the world that we see, it is never, ever the same. It is never stagnant. The only thing that is consistent in this world is the fact that there is change. And so this morning, I would encourage us to think about that core value, to think about being infinitely changing and apply it to our own lives in the way that we interact with and the way that we see and respond to one another. One of the main reasons that people cite and say that they do not want to be a part of a church, a legit church, an institutional church, is because of the hypocrisy that exists within it. About 11 or 12 years ago, Adam Hamilton, who is the pastor of Church of the Resurrection, it's one of the largest churches or the largest church in our global denomination, wrote a book, When Christians Get It Wrong. And it was based on a study done by the Pew Research Center and Barna Research Group. And it cited the top 5 reasons that people do not want to be a part of an institutional church. And one of the predominant reasons was the judgmentalism, and another one was the hypocrisy that exists within that institution. Now, whether we admit it or not, we are all hypocrites. I mean, we all are. And so I've read lots of articles over the last 10 to 12 years about that study. And Barna did another study really a couple of years ago that we're going to look at the end of the message today. But, you know, the bottom line is we are all hypocrites. But it's what we do with that. Like, are we trying not to be? So I wanted us to look this morning at the definition of hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is the practice to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. Hypocrisy is the practice, and I don't know what that word is, so we're just going to go with that together. Hypocrisy is the practice to have moral standards or beliefs to which one's own behavior does not conform. So really, hypocrisy is when we believe one thing, but we say and do another. So like hypocrisy with this would be that we want to be like C.S. Lewis. We want to be little Christ. We want to be Jesus, the Jesus that other people see. So hypocrisy would be looking at what Jesus was like, a person of love, a person of acceptance, a person of forgiveness, and then not acting that way. I find it really interesting that if you look at other places of organization or business, other groups, it seems like we give grace in our corporations, in our workplaces. Like if somebody messes up, we give them grace, or if we have conflict with a colleague, we give them grace. But one of the things that I've found, honestly, in 25 years of ministry is that the church is the one place that we don't do that. We get so indignant and so seriously self-righteous. We think we are right. And we think our way is the only way. And we're not willing to look at other people's perspectives. So that's why when we decided the core value, we wanted it to be infinitely changing, because guess what? Our mission statement is that we're real people doing real life, sharing God's love in real ways, and real people screw up. When's the last time you made a mistake? Like, if we had lots of time, I'd love for us to chat in the chat room about, like, what are some of the mistakes that you've made? I mean, just this past week, I can think of, like, a million. And even this morning, I thought I was doing so good. Like, I do not write manuscripts ever. Like, I just don't. I study for weeks ahead of time. Like, I know what I'm going to be preaching in 6 months. So that it's just always going through my head. I never write a manuscript. I mean, we're lucky if I have 3 sentences on a piece of paper. But Josh, one of our leaders in our worship production department, he is on a 4-week sabbatical because Josh has been employed by West all 11 years of our existence, and he's a part-time employee working way more than part-time. There's no such thing as part-time in ministry, and his soul is a little tired. And so we have 2 great volunteers here with me this morning that give so graciously of their time, Dave and Wayne. And so huge shout out and thank you to them. But so I wanted to make this easier for them so that Dave, especially because he's running the slides, he would not have an anxiety attack for the next 4 weeks. Because you see, sometimes on Sunday morning, that's when my best ideas come. And I'll be like, hey, what if we did this and this and this? And Josh has known me for 11 years. He just rolls with it. Brad just rolls with it. It's not fair to Dave to say, hey, buddy, you've never really done all this by yourself before, but I have 10 slides I'd like you to add. It's only, 8:57. Can you make this happen in 3 minutes? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to take advantage of our team. So, like, I actually wrote a manuscript this week. It is shocking. But then, like, I didn't think through all the details of that, which is not surprising to anyone. And, like, I highlighted all these little things that I wanted to be on the screen, but no one knew what the highlights meant. And they just thought they were for my notes. So this morning I'm like, okay, where are we with our screens? And they were just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, all the highlighted things. And Brad's like, Andrea, you didn't do that. You didn't tell us, And my first reaction is to be like, well, you should know that if. And then I was thinking about it while I was getting ready. And I'm like, that's nobody's responsibility to know. That's my job. Like, it's my job to tell them what I need on Sundays. I needed to change my mind because originally it was human nature for me to say, I'm right, you're wrong, and too bad. Sometimes we get caught up in that, I'm right and you're wrong, and especially in the church, like in the deeper workings of the church. And I don't know if it's because we have some kind of expectation that because we hope that if we're all coming to this place and we're all going to look like little Jesuses or act like little Jesuses, that we're going to be perfect. When I began ministry 25 years ago, I did have that very naive idea of what working in the church would be like. I thought, oh my gosh, we all love Jesus. This is going to be the best job ever. It's going to be, loving people. And I'd been a teacher, and so I loved people. I loved my students. But like, now I get to do ministry and get paid for it. This is going to be like the best thing ever. I think I'd been employed 3 weeks, and the senior pastor received an anonymous note about me. It was like 5 pages long, and it was devastating to me. Like, they talked about me so poorly. And I do remember thinking, I was like 24 years old, so very young and very naive. But I remember thinking, I haven't even been employed long enough to do 5 pages wrong. It hurt me to my core, and because so many of the things that were said in that letter were just simply untrue. They were citing things that I'd been to and done, and they just were not factual situations. It really made me question whether or not I wanted to work in ministry for the rest of my life, because I thought, how could people be so mean to just make up stuff to try to hurt someone? Years later, we were on a trip with the church, and eventually the lady that wrote the letter told the pastor that she wrote the letter. And we were driving through a city, and she shared with us that that was where she had been hospitalized for a mental breakdown, and that she had really wrestled with a mental illness for many, many years, and that she had been released from the hospital right before they moved to the area where the church was that I was serving. So it didn't take long for me to put a lot of pieces together. You know, she had just been hospitalized for a personality disorder, a mental illness, and then she moved to a church and she just had some stuff. And she needed to take her stuff out somewhere. It helped me see that situation with a really different perspective. And I needed to forgive her for the pain that I had experienced. But it took years for me to be able to do that and to work through that pain. One of the things that people that are not a part of a church say about the church is that we aren't kind to one another. And if we are kind to the people, then we're kind to our people. That's where the hypocrisy comes in. Like, we're kind to the people that are in our group or our club. We leave out others that are different. We leave out others that might be difficult. And so we're seen as one of the most hypocritical organizations and hypocritical groups of people ever. So this morning, the takeaway that I hope that we will all go away with is that sometimes we need to be willing to change our minds. And sometimes we need to see situations and experiences. And we need to look like at that let's make a deal. We need to look at what we've got and then look at what we don't have and be willing to put what we've got away. Our baggage, our anger, our hurt, our resentment, and go and see things in a different way. There's a scripture story that points this out beautifully. Before I read the scripture, I want to tell you it's a parable, and a parable is what Jesus would use to make a point. He wouldn't go into a lot of detail about it. He would just tell the story, almost like a punchline at a joke. Like, you know, when somebody tells you a joke and then there's the punchline, either you get it or you don't. And if you don't get it, it loses its whole impact if, like, you have to explain the punchline. That would have been like what a parable was with Jesus. He would use a story, an example that they would understand. And so this morning, I want to share with you a story, and it may be one that you've heard before. It's one that I've preached on before, but I don't want you to go, oh my gosh, she's telling us that again. I want you to hear this with fresh ears. I want you to be willing to look at this story and change your mind about it, because you see, when we hear this story, it's the story, the parable of the prodigal son. And when we hear the story, historically, we tend to think about the son, the one that, squanders away everything. He goes and he asks his dad and he squanders it away. And we think about it from his perspective. As I read the scripture this morning, I want you to meditate on the picture that you see on the screen. And I want you to think about who you would be in the story. The dad running to greet the son, or there's another character in the story that you don't see pictured on the screen, and that's the older son. I don't want you to think about you're the prodigal. That's not who we are today. We've all wandered and found our way back, or hopefully we'll find our way back. I want us to dig a little deeper this morning, and I want us to be willing to confront some of our own hypocrisy. And I want us to ask ourselves, are we going to be the dad or are we going to be the brother? Hear this parable from Jesus. Jesus told them, "There was once a man who had 2 sons. The younger said to his father, 'Father, I want right now what is coming to me.' And so the father divided the property between them. It wasn't long before the younger son packed his bags and left for a distant country. There, undisciplined and dissipated, he wasted everything he had. After he'd gone through all his money, there was a huge famine all throughout the country. He began to feel it. He signed on with a citizen there who assigned him to fields to slop the pigs. He was so hungry he would have eaten the corn cobs in the pig slop, but no one would give him any. That brought him to his senses, and he said, all those farm hands working for my father, they get to sit down to 3 meals a day, and here I am starving to death. I'm going back to my father. I'm going to say to him, Father, I've sinned against God, and I've sinned before you. I don't deserve to be called your son. Take me on as a hired hand. He got up, and he went right home to his father. Now listen to these next words. I think this is just such a powerful part of this story. When the son was still a long way off, his father saw him. His heart was pounding, and he ran out, and he embraced him, and he kissed him, and the son started his speech. Father, I have sinned against God, and I have sinned before you, and I do not deserve to be called your son ever again. But the father wasn't listening. He was calling to the servants, quick, bring clean clothes and dress him, put the family ring on his finger and his sandals on his feet, then get a prize-winning heifer and roast it. We're going to feast like never before. My son is here. He was given up for dead, and now he is alive. He was given up for lost, but now he is found. They began to have a wonderful time. All this time, the older son was out in the field. When the day's work was done, he came in. He heard the music and dancing as he approached the house, and calling over one of the houseboys, he asked what was going on. And the houseboy said, your brother came home. Your father's ordered a feast. It is barbecued beef because he has him home safe and sound. The older brother stomped off in an angry sulk and refused to join in. His father came out and tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't listen. The son said, look, how many years I've stayed here serving you. I never gave you 1 minute of grief, but have you ever thrown a party for me and my friends? Then this son of yours who's thrown away everything on prostitutes and who knows what else, he shows up and you go all out with a feast. His father said, son, you don't understand. You are with me all the time, and everything that is mine is yours, but this is a wonderful time, and we had to celebrate. This brother of yours was dead, and he's alive. He was lost, but now he is found. So in that story, how many times have we been the older brother? Like, we're doing everything right. We're really trying, and things just don't, it never seems to be enough. Things don't go our way, and then we look around and things are better for somebody else, or things seem to be going more for them in their direction, and we just get angry and indignant. I think it is human nature, right, to want to be right and want to get our way. But one of the things that we fail to do is we fail to look at things from the eyes of the others. In one of the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, when Jesus said, "Blessed are the merciful," he meant blessed are those, oh, the joy for those who see from the eyes of others. When we will look at things from the perspective of other people, I promise you, it changes everything. Now, it may not totally dissipate the hurt, but it does allow us to have a broader perspective when we say, why are they doing that? Why are they treating me that way? Or why is this situation what it is? I mean, if the older son or the older brother would have looked at this and looked at it from the perspective of his father loved both of his sons. And one son made huge, huge mistakes. but the son came home. Who doesn't want to be reunited with someone that we love when they've gone away? There's not any one of us that would turn our backs on someone that we love so deeply if they come back to us and say, I have made a mistake. So it's really a parable about the older son and the father. And are we going to look at things with self-righteousness and judgmentalism and hypocrisy? Or are we going to be willing to look at things with eyes of love and hope and grace? Years ago, it's interesting, the people that want to come and talk to the staff or the pastor, and someone came and wanted to meet with me, and they were telling me, why they were going to leave the church. I always hate those conversations. We never want the church to be a place where people leave. But sometimes there are such things as good goodbyes. And this was, unfortunately, such a case. A person came to visit with me, and they started out with, this is why I'm leaving. And then they gave me a list of people who had been so mean to them. Now, I found it interesting. I mean, there were a lot of people on the list, and I have not had negative interactions with any of those individuals. And I thought, okay, but I'm the preacher, right? So lots of times people are nicer to the preacher. So I asked the person questions, and it turned out that they just felt ignored. They thought these folks were their friends, and like certain things would happen, like they'd walk into church and they wouldn't smile at them, or they wouldn't walk over and greet them because they were talking to someone else. And I promise you, I am not exaggerating the story at all. And they kept telling me, like, example after example, when someone didn't, reach out to them, and how their feelings had been hurt. And you know what? My feelings would be hurt too. My feelings get hurt if you look at me sideways. And so I understood. And I'm like, you know what? I'm really sorry that this has happened. What did they say when you talked to them about it? And they're like, oh, no, I didn't talk to them about it. I'm not going to do that. And I said, what do you mean you're not going to do that? They're like, I'm not going to talk to them about it. I said, you're leaving the church. This place that you say helps you encounter God and helps you experience the love of Christ. And you're leaving the church because some folks that you care about deeply are not treating you as you feel you would like to and should be treated. But yet you've not told them. How's that fair? How's that fair to the church? How's that fair to them? And how's it fair to you? Because you're carrying around this pain and this resentment. And the only way you're going to be able to change your mind about the situation, about these people, is if you have a conversation with them. Now, they may very well say, you know what, I feel like our friendship has run its course or whatever. I mean, lots of people say different things. But you've got to at least give them a chance. Give them a chance to explain why they didn't talk to you, or why they didn't walk over, or why you felt shunned. They told me that they would pray about it and think about it, and several months passed. They came to meet with me again, same conversation. I'm like, have you talked to them? No. There was nothing I was going to be able to say or do to convince them that they should have some guts and own up to their stuff and talk to the other person about it. That's pretty much what Jesus said. He said, if you have a problem with somebody, your brother, your sister, you take it to them in love, and you share with them what's going on. Guess what, though? In order to do that, we have to change our minds. And that's where the infinitely changing comes in. In order to resolve any conflict whatsoever, whether it's in church or business or family or relationships, at some point in the conflict, we have to change our mind and be willing to see things from the perspective of the other person that we're in the relationship with. At least enough to be open to have conversations. Our core value of infinitely changing is there so that we will always be mindful that we're not perfect, that we're not always right, and that we are real people doing real life. And we're going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. But one of the beautiful things about messing up is that we are willing to do it together and offer one another grace, just like that daddy. I mean, how amazing must it have been for that young man when his father saw him from a long way off, him to run and greet him. If you have fallen in love with Jesus, you know that that's the love that we get from Christ all the time. No matter what we face, that love lies and is embedded deep within us, and it's always there. It's always ours for the taking. But guess what? Being a follower of Christ also means we offer that love. We are called to be the Father. We are called to be the one running to those that we are in relationships with our arms wide open. So, Andrea, what if they don't receive me? Okay. Sometimes, you know what, we can do everything and our actions won't be met or reciprocated. And sometimes Jesus did it. He wiped the dust off his feet and went on his way. We can't make people receive our love, but we can always make sure we offer it. If we would do that, the hypocrisy that is said to exist toward the church, it would not be there anymore. So I'm going to ask, are you willing to do that today? Are you willing to be the son that looks at the brother and thinks, man, why didn't I get all that? Or are you willing to be the dad, the daddy that runs to his prodigal son when he was a long way off and runs to him with open arms and open eyes? If we will do that, if we'll be infinitely changing, not only will the church be a better place, but so will the world. As we close this morning, I want you to take a look at this video. It's a powerful testimony of love and forgiveness. And I want you to ask yourself, would you be willing to live like this and offer this same grace? Take a look.
We end this week with a lesson in forgiveness from Steve Hartman on the road.
It all went down on this block in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Back in '05, Jamel McGee says he was minding his own business when a police officer accused him of and arrested him for dealing drugs.
You saying the officer made it up?
Yeah, it was all made up.
Of course, a lot of accused men make that claim, but not many arresting officers agree.
So you phonied the report?
I did. I falsified the report.
This is former Benton Harbor police officer Andrew Collins.
Were you just trying to chalk up an arrest?
Basically, the start of that day, I was going to make sure I had another drug arrest.
And in the end, you put an innocent guy in jail?
Correct. Yeah.
You lost everything.
I lost everything. My only goal was to seek him when I got home and to hurt him.
Really?
That was my goal.
Eventually, that crooked cop was caught, served a year and a half for falsifying many police reports, planting drugs, and stealing.
Of course, Jamel was exonerated, but he still spent 4 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. Today, both men are back here in Benton Harbor, which is a small town. Maybe a little too small.
Hey guys, thank you.
Last year, by sheer coincidence, they both ended up at Mosaic, a faith-based employment agency where they now work side by side in the same cafe.
Oh, excuse me.
And it was in these cramped quarters that the bad cop and the wrongfully accused had no choice but to have it out.
And I said, honestly, I have no explanation. All I can do is say I'm sorry.
And Jamel says that was all it took.
That was pretty much what I needed to hear.
Today, they're not only cordial,
Saturday we went to the trampoline park.
they're friends.
We talk about life.
Such close friends. Not long ago, Jamel actually told Andrew he loved him.
And I just started weeping because he doesn't owe me that. I don't deserve that,
Did you forgive for his sake or for yours?
No, for our sake. Not just us, for our sake.
Jamel went on to tell me about his Christian faith and his hope for a kinder mankind. He wants to be an example. So now he and Andrew give speeches together about the importance of forgiveness and redemption.
Grab this, we'll set it over there.
And clearly, if these two guys from the coffee shop can set aside their bitter grounds, what's our excuse? Steve Hartman, on the road, in Benton Harbor, Michigan.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight.
Isn't that such a great story? I love that he says, did you forgive for his sake or for your sake? And he said, for ours. Anytime we are willing to change how we see things, how we think about things, even if we don't end up changing our stance on an issue, if we're just willing to change enough so that we will see and understand and feel the perspective of the others that we're in relationships with, the change that happens, it's transformational. And we're like C.S. Lewis. We're like little Jesuses. Why did Jesus tell this story? Well, it's in the middle of Luke 15, a bunch of lost parables. The lost sheep, the lost coin, and then the lost son. And he told this parable for these reasons. To the religious people, the law was more important than people. Judgment was more important than someone else's story. They didn't care about the other person's story. They just cared about judging according to the law. Adherence to the law was a way to God instead of God being about a relationship of mercy and grace. And perfection in religious life is more important than transparency, vulnerability, and honesty. This morning, I want to ask, where's your heart? Where is your willingness to be infinitely changing? Is there a relationship that you can apply that to today? Let's think about this on this Labor Day weekend. Will you pray with me? Gracious God, we do have the privilege of being in relationships with one another, so would you help us be willing to change, to see things from the vantage point of those that we're in relationship with? And God, help us to understand and remember that we are always called to give mercy and grace. Thank you for loving us in the way that the Father loved the prodigal son. Thank you for receiving us with this openness of mercy and grace. And help us be willing not to be the older brother, but to change. Change the way that we feel and see, and change the way that we act. So that church will no longer be a place that's thought of as a place with hypocrisy, but a place of real people trying to do real life and share God's love in real ways. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. I invite you this week to put this into practice. Have different eyes and different ways to see. Go in peace.
Oh, I have days I lose the fight, try my best, but just don't get it right. Where I talk a talk that I don't walk and miss the moments right before my eyes. Somebody with a hurt that I could have helped, somebody with a hand that I could have held. When I just can't see past myself, Lord, help me be a little more like mercy, a little more like grace, a little more like kindness, goodness, love and faith, a little more like patience, a little more like peace, a little more like Jesus, a little less like me. Yeah, there's no denying I have changed. I've been saved from who I used to be. But even at my best, I must confess, I still need help to see the way you see. Somebody with a hurt that I could have helped, somebody with a hand that I could have held. When I just can't see past myself, Lord, help me be a little more like mercy, a little more like grace, a little more like kindness, goodness, love and faith, a little more like patience, a little more like peace, a little more like Jesus, a little less like me. Oh, to feed a beggar on the street, love to be your hands and feet, freely give what I receive, Lord, help me be. I wanna put you first above all else, love my neighbor as myself, in the moments no one sees, Lord, help me be. 1, 2, a little more like mercy, a little more like grace, a little more like kindness, goodness, love and faith, a little more like patience, a little more like peace, a little more like Jesus, a little less like me, a little more I'm living everything I preach, a little more like Jesus, a little less like me. Oh, a little less like me.
I love science. Oh, I love getting a bath from my puppy. Oh, I love dreaming. And I love... What? Einstein? Einstein, what is it? I'm trying to sleep. Hugo and I are trying to sleep. Can't you see that? What? What do you mean it's time for AMP? Hugo, why didn't you wake me up? What do you mean it's time for AMP? Oh my gosh, Hugo, I showed no initiative. I gotta get on it. You gotta help me. I know, Einstein, I know. Thank you for waking me up. We almost missed AMP. I've got to show more initiative.
Hey guys, welcome back to Amped Up Art. My name is Lindsay and I've got two very special guests with me today. I've got Miss Macy and Miss Eden. All right, so today we're gonna be doing a Play-Doh activity. So in your Amped boxes, you should have gotten some Play-Doh and some little cookie cutters. So let's get started. First, pick your colors of Play-Doh that you want to use.
We did pink.
Ooh, that's pretty. You're gonna make it into a flat pancake. Get it as flat as you can get it.
As flat as possible.
Yep. Good job.
This is a big thing.
Once you've got it as flat as you want to get it, pick out your cookie cutter. Which one do you want to use?
I want to shoot a cat. Oh, I took it out. Cookies.
Then what you're going to do is you're going to push down really hard and then pull it up.
And then 2 cat cookies.
And do that as many times as you want. Use your imagination. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye. Oh my God, oh my God.
You have a minute to win it. AMP style.
All right, kids, welcome to AMP's Minute to Win It game. We have 2 helpers here today. We've got little Avery here and Austin, and we're going to play Defy Gravity. That's the name of it, Defy Gravity. We're going to defy gravity today by keeping all 3 of these balloons simultaneously in the air. Everybody's played with a balloon before, right? Popped it up in the air, tried not to let it hit the ground. Everyone's played that. So this is what we're going to do today. We're going to get all 3 balloons. We're going to pop them in the air. We're going to try to keep them going, okay? On the count of 5, we're going to get them up. Avery, get your other balloon. Austin, are you ready? Everybody at home, you got your balloons, you got your kit, you got everything out, you ready to go? All right, here we go. On 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There it goes, there it goes. Avery, there you go, Avery.
You have to get 3, not 2.
3. Nice job.
Keep going. Keep going.
Austin, back in.
Back in the shot.
Nice job. Avery, get it. Get it. In the air. Here we go. Back on screen. Get back there. Gotta get back in the zone, Avery. Good job. Austin, one more. There you go, Avery. There you go. Get that other one up. Good job, Austin. Good job. Use a foot. A heel. An elbow. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Great job, guys. That's awesome, huh? That's awesome. All right, who do we have a winner here? I don't know. It was pretty close. I think they both won. What do y'all think?
Yeah.
All right. Great job. Thank you all this week, and thanks, kids, for playing Minute to Win It and, okay? Coach Shay out. Peace.
Here's Dr. Lulu.
Hi, kids. Einstein and I are so glad you're back. Guess what? We have a great science experiment for you today. I think you're gonna love it. Here's what you need. A balloon, any kind of bottle, kind of container, baking soda, and vinegar. That's it. I have a funnel because I don't have a helper today. Einstein likes to help, but he just has wings, and he can't hold things like he needs to. So here's what you do first. Take your balloon and stick it to the bottom of your funnel, or get your helper to hold the balloon open while you put some baking soda inside it. Okay, so add baking soda to the balloon. After you've gotten some baking soda in your balloon, set it aside for just a second. Then take your vinegar and pour it in your bottle container. That should be plenty. Next, and you may have to have help with this too, take your balloon and keep the baking soda in it while you stretch it over the mouth of your bottle. Okay, so here we have it. Ready? So we have vinegar, balloon, baking soda. Here we go. Take your balloon and dump the baking soda in, and check it out. It blows the balloon up. You don't have to do anything. That's amazing. What a cool chemical reaction is that? The vinegar and the baking soda bubble up and fill up the balloon with air. You've got to show your friends this one. We'll see you next time.
Our story today is from the book of Nehemiah. In fact, we're going to be talking about Nehemiah all month long. So here to help me tell the beginning of his story are the So-and-So Show players. Nehemiah was the king's wine taster.
Oh, King Artaxerxes, this is good. I can smell hints of fig. Oh, and that was cherry. Oh, burnt camel hair.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah.
That you're smelling that. Can you taste it and check for poison?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. That's my job.
Wine taster,
all right.
not wine smoker.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, King.
Excellent.
That's just...
Nope. 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 Once again.
Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Oh, man, you should have seen your face. It's fine.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just bottoms up.
Yeah.
Nehemiah had been away from his home in Jerusalem for quite some time. So when his brother Hanani came to visit, Nehemiah asked him all about Jerusalem.
Nehemiah.
Hanani! Hey! Oh, it's good to see you.
Yeah,
tell me. I want to hear about everything. Tell me how the people are back home in Judah. How's the city of Jerusalem?
Yeah, oh, brother. The people are having a hard time. And Jerusalem. Oh, sweet Jerusalem. The walls of Jerusalem.
I love the walls. They're huge.
Yeah, they were. were. The walls have come down. Yeah, the gates are burned with fire. Yep, I got you. Yep.
When Nehemiah heard this, he wept for several days, and he didn't eat any food.
You're out of strawberry.
No!
Nope.
I think you get the point. Nehemiah was sad, and he did something that's helpful to do when you're feeling sad. He prayed to God. Nehemiah praised God in his prayers. And he also admitted that he and his people, well, they kind of messed up and they hadn't been following God. Also, in his prayers, Nehemiah asked God to give him success when he asks King Artaxerxes a really big favor.
Nehemiah, would you?
That's good.
Oh. What? Nehemiah, well, you're sad. Why are you so sad?
King, may you live forever, but my city, where my people of old have been buried, it's been destroyed. The city's destroyed, and the walls and gates have been burned with fire.
Terrible. What do you want?
Nehemiah again prayed to God before he made his request of the king.
If it please you, I would ask that you send me to Judah, to the city of Jerusalem, so that I can rebuild the wall.
How long will it take?
The king gave Nehemiah permission. And Nehemiah also asked the king to send along letters that would not only make sure he had a safe journey, but it would also help Nehemiah get access to logs he could use to rebuild part of the city wall. Artaxerxes gave him the letters and sent an army of officers with him for protection. After Nehemiah had been in Jerusalem for 3 days, he went out at night to check on the wall. He went through the valley gate toward the Jackal Well.
Hey, whoa. The Jackal Well?
That's what it says.
All right. Let's go.
And then he walked to the Dung Gate.
Dung Gate?
Dung Gate. It's right there in the Bible.
You know what? This is wild. It's wild.
Nehemiah saw that the entire wall had been destroyed. So he went back to speak with the priest and the officials of Jerusalem.
Good. Are all the priests and the officials here? All right, good. Good.
Who did you
Good.
say this guy was? Let's listen.
Hello. Sorry. Hello, friends. We all know what kind of trouble that we are in right now. Jerusalem has been destroyed, and our gates have been burned with fire.
It's awful. Never been.
I know, it's terrible. It is terrible. But there's, yes, it is. But listen, please stop.
Where are we going?
Please stop. Thank you. We must try to, nay. We will rebuild the wall around Jerusalem. We will rebuild the wall.
Never thought of that.
Yes, we can do that. My friends, listen, God has been gracious to me. God has helped me, and King Artaxerxes has given us supplies that will help us rebuild the wall right now. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, okay.
Yes. Okay. All right, so who is ready to get to work and rebuild the wall?
Yeah.
Good. Excellent. Let's go. Let's go.
Not everybody was happy with what Nehemiah and his friends were doing. They were afraid that Jerusalem would become too strong and they would attack other nations. They tried everything they could to get Nehemiah and his friends to stop working on the wall. But Nehemiah didn't listen, and he just kept working. And guess what? They finished rebuilding the wall in 52 days. With God's help, Nehemiah just did what needed to be done. He didn't wait for someone else to do what needed to be done. He just did it. And that's what initiative is all about.
Oh, Einstein, thank you so much. We showed initiative. We showed initiative because you gotta be ready for stuff. Thank you for helping me be ready for Amped. Couldn't have done it without you. See you next time, guys.
Follow us on Instagram at Amped Online to stay up to date on the latest news, air dates, and extra content. Invite a friend by having them text Amped to 704-343-8955 to sign up for their free Amped subscription box.